Welcome to another episode from Inside Treasures. My name is Phoebus and I love to challenge myself and those around me for the purpose of growth. This podcast is about helping you to change, to heal, and to grow. By listening to this episode, you're going to learn about the mind-body connection. The ancient Greeks had a saying, healthy mind, healthy body. In Greek, nousi gis and somati gi. They acknowledged back then the link between the mind and the body. And that was a few thousand years ago. We're still catching up on that. In the previous two episodes, we talked about the automatic nervous system and the emotional brain. And I thought this is going to tie in really well to the mind-body connection concept. What is the mind-body connection? The mind-body connection speaks about how the mind affects the body. Whether it's our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs, our attitudes, how those influence our body. The thing to remember about this is also that it is a two-way street. It's just like two communicating vessels. They're connected. The body and the mind, they're connected. And that connection works in both ways, not only one way. All we're saying is like, by using our mind, by using our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs, we're affecting our body to the better or to the worse, whether it is about healing quicker or being more vulnerable and falling ill. It doesn't really matter because the connection is the same. A lot of the mind-body connection falls under what is it that's negative? What is it that happens? What we hear the most is about psychosomatic illnesses. What is it? This person is a patient, they're suffering, and they're suffering from, heart disease or diabetes. And the saying is, this has been caused, yes, by probably dietary and heredity conditions, but it also has to do with the way the mind has affected the body. Why is this concept important? Why do I want to share this with you? Because it's really important, again, to remember about our awareness, about our thoughts, our emotions, that we can all become responsible for and actually use them to our benefit, and also see how we're using them in their own way. They're affecting us in a negative way. They're limiting us. They're inhibiting us. They're making us ill. When I talked about the automatic nervous systems and about the emotional brain, I was talking a lot about thoughts, emotions, and how those affect those two systems, our emotional brain and our automatic nervous system, and how that, in effect, actually changes our chemistry within our body, whether it was fear, anxiety, anger, or happiness. All these different emotions and the thoughts that they come with that have a certain tendency to affect the body in a certain way. At the same time, we can use our body to relax the mind, and we can use the mind to relax the body. And with that, we get different benefits in the body. We get different chemicals released in the body. We get better well-being. We get a better outlook in life. It helps us combat against anxiety, against stress, against fear, against anger. It helps us be more at ease, be more in touch with ourselves, be more present. When it comes to emotions, and when it comes to thoughts, we can actually feel them within our body. With NLP, with hypnosis, we're actually using that in order to help people overcome whatever it is, like fear, anxiety. And we can ask the person to actually name the place and how they actually experience it. Is it a fuzzy feeling? Is it pins and needles? And we're trying to describe that and make it more concrete for the person to be able to take hold of it, to understand it, and also to be able to change it and shift it. And that comes back into having control and being aware, because we're aware of where we're experiencing what we're experiencing, and then how we can change that into a different feeling. And by changing that to the different sensation, it changes the emotion. So that way we get to shift energies and to shift the different kinds of emotions. And then we help people to change. A thing that I often notice is like I go out about my regular day and then all of a sudden I feel a tension somewhere. It's not that it's not there. It's just all of a sudden I become aware of it. And if you were to now just take a second and hold that space and actually feel your body and try to find a place where perhaps there's some tension. And then breathe in. And as you exhale, just let it melt away. You can repeat this a couple of times, but just allow things to soften up. And then you're going to feel a bit lighter. You're going to feel a bit different. And you see how things are in the background without our awareness, but that doesn't mean they're not there. And that's part of about being more mindful and building that awareness. It's about being more present within our body, in the now, and paying attention to what's happening. Then when we sense certain sensations like stiffness, like anxiety in our body or stress, we can say, hold on a minute, there's nothing really dangerous right here. I can really soften up and just be. How can the mind-body principle affect our life in a negative way then? Emotions produce chemicals in the brain. Whether it's anger, anxiety, stress, depression, those kinds of emotions fire in our brain. Remember the emotional brain, the amygdala, the center of that, and they fire off messages. And those messages end up being picked up by the automatic nervous systems. And then that has a physical response within our body. And that can be normal, A car is coming, we can momentarily go into fight or flight mode. And that is to protect us. But when it becomes a long-term thing, when we're not doing the things that we want to do because we're too afraid, when, for example, we might be at work, but there's bullying at work, when we're avoiding having conversations with people, and get into depression, for example, all these things, they have an effect into our body. And they fire certain chemicals within our body. What happens at the same time is like a lot of the positive chemicals that we have, such as, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, they get depleted through the chronic tiring of the body. Our brain burns down in the end, and our organs, which are producing those chemicals, are getting tired of producing those chemicals. So we reach that degree that it's been that long that we've been into overstimulus. At some point, the whole body collapses. For example, even if we're just insecure, when we're insecure or when we're in doubt, we feel a little bit threatened. And that threat is enough to fire off the cortisol and the adrenaline, which what does is that it puts our whole body into a stress response. We might think of people like who are very angry, and we've heard stories, this person, they got a heart attack, and they used to smoke a lot, they used to be very stressful, and they used to get angry a lot. We might have heard similar stories like that. And the notion is, when we're running our body into such an extent, our body begins to break down. Because what happens? Stress actually affects our whole body. It affects our organs, our nervous system, our skeletal system, our immune system, our reproductive system, our digestive system. Everything gets affected. Of course, again, this has to do with prolonged stress. It's when it's like happening constantly. Oh, my job is always very demanding, so every single day I can never relax, and I spend 8 hours a day being stressed, being under threat, feeling that I'm always behind. These kinds of emotions, we see how they can have an effect in our health. And then we wonder how people work for like 20 years, and then they reach retirement, or on their way to retirement, they burn out either physically or mentally or emotionally. It's because we are so used to running all the way to the red, and not only for a fraction of time, but for a long time. And that takes a toll into our psychology, that takes a toll into our emotional well-being, and of course, into our body. And that's the whole concept behind the mind-body connection. Whatever we think, whatever we feel, is having an effect in our physical body. Because we're spending a lot of time talking about, having healthy lifestyles, what we eat, what we drink, and of course, they're important to our physical health. But when we're more stressed, we're more likely to eat the bad food. We're more likely not to exercise, for the most of us, because we don't have time. We talked about how the mind-body connection can work against us, but now let's think about how it can actually benefit us. How can this principle of mind-body connection benefit you? First of all, we start from where we are. One common practice that anyone can benefit from is learning to relax our body. Learning to relax and breathing deeper than we usually do. That doesn't mean we have to really go into the extent of really holding our breath for far too long, or breathing so deeply that we can barely breathe. because that stops being relaxing. Relaxing usually tends to be natural. By focusing on our breathing, we tend to learn what's natural for us. We can try and play a little bit and extend that a little bit more and see how that affects our mind and how that affects our emotion and how that affects our body. And that's part of being mindful. That's part of the practice of mindfulness. And even in like hypnosis and hypnotherapy, that's like the main key that we use. It's not a necessary step to achieve hypnosis, but it's a very useful one. We use it in Reiki as well. Find a space for yourself just for a few moments to be with yourself and be happy and fine about that. And when we spend time in that, we see that our mind begins to slow down. Our mind chatter slows down. The way we think slows down. At first, it's like, there's so much noise, I can't bear this. Are we focusing into guiding our awareness into relaxing our body? And that comes with breathing deeply, finding places where we experience stress or tension, and by allowing that to melt off, to melt away, just like an ice cube. The minute we relax our breathing, we also relax our cardiovascular system. Now we have hypertension, it won't be the same, of course, but breathing and your cardiovascular system are linked together. So usually when we start to breathe deeply and we begin to relax, our heart rate begins to calm down. And when that happens, of course, our body is slowly starting to relax. And when we relax, we allow our body to go from fight or flight to rest and digest. And that is where we heal, not only physically, but also emotionally. When we allow the body to relax, we allow the mind to relax. When we allow the mind to relax, we allow the body to relax. And the effect that has is for us to begin to heal. I'm not saying that we have to be in a constant state of being like a zombie and I'm so relaxed and nothing is fazing me and actually I'm just not even going to get out of bed because that's going to stress me. This is not about avoiding life. This is about taking the time within your life, within the day-to-day activities. And whether it's in between things or at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, it's about finding that space and calling home. Finding that space which we allow our mind to relax and our body to relax. Because we will find that that actually benefits our well-being. What are some other ways of benefiting from the mind-body connection? Well, it's simple things like laughing, spending time with those we love, making love and bonding. It actually creates, it doesn't always have to be a romantic relationship. Even having those people that we care about and they care about us, it's creating that bonding. Even if we have even if it's a project that we really care and love about. But most of all, if it's surrounded about people and giving and receiving in a positive, healthy way, these kinds of things like release positive hormones such as oxytocin, which I said earlier, when you're getting cortisol, you get less oxytocin. When you get more oxytocin, you get less cortisol. When you're laughing, we get more dopamine, more serotonin. And these are like jargon again, but it's about hormones that they help us feel great. And those great hormones, one feeds the other. We're in a physical space, we're interacting with other people, but we're having a set of emotions and thoughts, and they're going on at the same time. But when we're having those interactions, one feeds the other. When I'm having a good time, I'm having the positive reaction within me. I'm having the positive emotions, I'm having the positive thoughts. And those things fire off emotions to our benefit that help us achieve well-being without medication or without anything outside of us, because they say that we actually have everything that we need within our body. Our body can produce all sorts of chemicals that can actually help us prevent experiencing severe pain and help us deal with the pain and actually relieve us from pain. In conclusion, the mind-body connection teaches us that our emotions and our thoughts affect our physical body, and our body affects our emotions and thoughts. So we can either poison our blood with different chemicals, so we can poison our blood and destroy our health without the use of any external substances or drugs. Or we can improve our well-being and health and mood, the quality of our thoughts and emotions, again, without the use of any substances. And if you think about it, a lot of times people take any external substances, a lot of times has to do with changing the way we feel. But there are different ways to change the way we feel. And that's one thing I want you to take away. What other ways can you find to change the way you feel when you need to? Ways that actually benefit your health and your well-being. Ways that don't create dependencies to other people or other things. Use the mind-body connection to your advantage. What are some things that you can do? The basis starts with looking after ourselves. The really basic is eating better, sleeping better, exercising. When we exercise again, we have different kinds of hormones that they pass through the body that helps us feel better. Learning to relax. Learning to relax, it's a skill. We all do it in a way, but it's about tapping into it and how we do it and being more aware of that. How do I relax? How do I do things that actually help me feel good? Again, I'm tapping into awareness. Awareness of any tension within our body. Awareness of how does happiness feel within me? How does sadness feel within me? How does joy feel within me? It's having those awarenesses because then we can recall emotions within our body and we can actually think of how does it feel to feel in love? How does it feel to feel blissful? How does it feel to be excited? Those are different emotions and we experience them in different ways. But also on a day-to-day basis, noticing how is this emotion making me feel within my body? Do I feel open or do I feel closed? Do I feel tense or do I feel relaxed? Do I feel firm? We also have firm, which is between the two. Alert. Being relaxed doesn't really always mean being asleep. We can be alert and aware. Noticing the physical sensations and how we can actually learn to release that tension from within the body. If you go a few episodes back, you might also remember about the episode that I talked about doing the things that put you in balance and actually recognizing what those things are. Because when we recognize what are the things that put us in balance and actually have a list, we can deliberately think and actually act and behave and do the things that actually make us feel in balance. And don't expect to be in balance in order to do those things, but actually do those things to get you in balance. If I like going for a walk in the forest and I know that makes me get in balance, even if I'm the most upset and the most lost in my life, then I can't wait until I feel good again. I have to go now. I have to go today, walk in the forest, and then when I come out of the forest, by that time, I start reaping the benefits. I have been reaping the benefits through the process. And that applies to everything. Don't wait for the planets to align. Just start, and the process itself leads itself and brings and attracts the energy that we're looking for. Nietzsche said, "There's more wisdom in your body than in your deepest philosophy." Let's all become more sensitive to the messages our body is sending. It is communicating things to us. Are we listening? Are you listening? We can all learn to listen a little more. Build that sensitivity and then act accordingly. Please share this podcast with anyone you think may benefit. Until next time, let peace guide your life, love guide your heart, and reason guide your thoughts.